Marie, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Now, I hope you've remembered to sort your clocks out. Did you remember to put your clock an hour? Fall backwards, isn't it? Fall backwards, spring forwards. Hope you remember to put your clocks back an hour. I mean, of course, in this day and age, we tell the time mostly with our phones or, some technology of some kind, which does it all for you, so you don't have to remember. But if you have got some old-fashioned clocks and things or watches, when I say old-fashioned, I mean that you have to reset the time to, don't forget to put your clock back an hour. So winter's sort of officially here. It's turned quite cold here in Spain. Those of you who don't know me, I'm in mainland Spain. It's chilly. It's 14 degrees. It's really cold in the mornings when I take the dogs out now for a walk. It's muy frío. But it's nice. It's nice to, can think straight. All that horrible heat we had over the summer. I mean, it is nearly November, so we should be cold by now, really. Anyway, so you may have noticed slightly different little layout here, because I did mention on the stream that I did a while ago, a StreamYard, who I use for my streaming, they decided to put their prices up from the €10 that I was paying to over €40 a month for some unknown reason. So anyway, I'm not doing that because literally that'd be nearly a quarter of what I earn on YouTube in the first place. So I'm not doing that. I'm not paying over €40 a month. It's just not worth it yet for me. But I'm looking into other streaming options. I don't mind paying for the streaming, but not €40 a month, over €40. So I am looking into other streaming options. But today we're on the free version. It won't let me put a picture up of the people that I want to talk about today, but we'll look at pictures on the internet, etc. But normally I like to put a picture, logo up of the victims in the corner, etc. I can't do that on the free version of StreamYard. But anyway, it'll get sorted. But I wonder if they might put it back down a little bit, because I won't be the only one who's saying, hang on a minute, don't mind a little increase, do you? As I say, even 20, €25 a month, but I'm not paying over €40 a month. Anyway, so you'll see a slightly different layout. I've also got a new webcam, so hopefully it's a better picture than it was. I have also got a new ring light, but I still haven't got that out of the box. Everything's been a bit crazy in a good way, fine. All good. Hope you're all good as well. So in today's video, what we're going to talk about is the most significant catfishing is a new word. Well, say a new word, a relatively new word, because catfishing, in the sense that we're going to talk about it, not just fishing for catfish, is an expression, a relatively new expression that's come with the advent of the internet, of course, etc. And that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at first, what is catfishing? And then we're going to talk about an awful case. Well, we're going to talk about a few, but one particular awful case of catfishing, which led to the deaths of 2 people by one horrible man from Northern Ireland. It's the most significant case of catfishing, they say, in the UK, because of the volume of victims of this man, and 2 of which died. One was an indirect victim who died, and the other was a direct victim. So it's a very tragic story, of course, because it's a story of young people being catfished. Catfishing takes many different forms. You can be catfished for financial reasons. You can be catfished for romantic reasons. It happens to adults, happens to children, it happens to men, it happens to women. Nobody is safe from catfishing. Basically, catfishing is when somebody presents a completely different persona online, Like, you know who I am because you see me here on the videos. But, you know, believe me, a lot of the other YouTube channels that you might watch where you don't see somebody's face, you don't know who they are. I know who some of them are. But I'm not getting into that. But so, you'd be surprised. Some people have got multiple YouTube accounts. They use voice changers, go on and present themselves as a different person, even sometimes with an opposing point of view. You know, it's creepy. That's why I don't really trust YouTube channels that you can't see their faces and actually see them, that they are the person that they say they are. Because believe me, there's a lot of fake YouTube accounts out there as well. But not only that, on Facebook, Twitter, all these social dating sites, you don't know until you meet someone in person or see a live video of them talking. You don't know that they're even a real person. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so first of all, I've just got a few things I wanted to say, and I've written them down because I always forget everything I'm supposed to say. So I've told you about StreamYard and what's happening there. Oh, yeah, so we've got Halloween next week. So Halloween is Thursday. Don't forget to send in your photos, any Halloween sort of even loosely related photos are fine. You know, doesn't have to, anything that you think will be interesting for us to look at. Because on Halloween night, on Thursday, we're going to have a live that is, I mean, it'd be spooky and it'd be scary, but, you know, a bit more fun than normally because obviously we talk about true crime. So quite often we talk about very sad cases, serious cases. So that will be on Thursday. Now, this Thursday should be the Let's Chat Members Live, which is every 2 weeks. So what I'm going to do on Monday when I do the Carry On Chatting Members Live, I'm going to amalgamate that as just a general members live for Carry On Chatting and Let's Chat. So that'll be tomorrow. So why not become a member? So you can become a member from only $1.99 a month, and $1.99 for the Let's Chat membership, lives every 2 weeks, and the Carry On Chatting membership is live every single Monday, yeah. So I want to thank all the people who have become members. I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow night, Monday night. And also I want to thank everybody who watches my channel, subscribes, likes, shares the videos, anyone who's bought me a Ko-fi. So all the Ko-fis at the moment are going towards quite a big location that I've got location trip coming up, which I'll be telling you about on Ko-fi. What else? Oh, and thank you to those of you who send me super stickers, PayPal me, send me nice emails, send me nice messages. Thank you for all your input into my channel, even you trolley dollies, because you all help with the algorithm. So thank you so much. Right. What else did I want to say before I start? Oh, yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping, which I always forget, just to remind everyone that in my other life, I am a Spanish teacher. I'm just going to show you my books on Amazon very quickly. Hopefully I'm still able to share things. I think I am. Yeah. Oh, so I haven't taken that facility away from me at least. So yeah, so if you want to learn Spanish, go on Amazon, any Amazon site, doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can buy my books, Break the Language Barrier. There are 5 levels. There's a level for anyone who wants to learn Spanish. There's also some little bilingual books about my dogs, Rocky the Rebel, Duque, El Rey, and Peter, El Tonto, etc. And the other thing that is on another book is the book which talks about my life, really, I suppose. and how I ended up living in Spain as a Spanish teacher, which is called Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, how I ended up getting interested in true crime. This is it here, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, Part 1. I have got another one coming soon, but I don't know exactly when that'll be. So yeah, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, Vicky Riley. Again, these are available on any Amazon site, and there's a Kindle version or the hardback version. Not hardback, paperback, sorry. Excuse me. So yeah. So I just thought I'd let you know about those. Now, have I got anything else to say? I think I'm ready to start now. So cheers. Got nice coffee in here. We'll be having a little drink later. It's Sunday, of course. So let's say hello to everybody. Hey, Chumba. Hi, Kelly. Oh, look, Nightbot. Oh, my God. So it says you can buy this channel of coffee here, but it doesn't put the link. I don't know why it does that. Why doesn't it put the link? You know, for those of you who watch me regularly, you'll know about this history with Nightbot. I tried the Nightbot. It's like a virtual moderator, really. And the first time I tried it, it just kept kicking people off and banning them. And now, every now and again, and only every now and again, it just pops up for absolutely no reason that I can fathom out whatsoever. So that I don't know why that's popped up. Anyway, never mind. You like this screen, Kelly? Yeah, it's good. Hi, David. Hi, Lorna. Yeah, Kelly. I'm going to tell you about a few cases that you just can't believe. Having said that, I do think sometimes, you know, how someone can go for years having a relationship with someone online that they've never met. Years. The one I'm going to tell you about today, 9 years having a relationship with somebody that they had never, ever met. So that, to me, I can understand how you might do it for a couple of weeks, even a couple of months, even a year. But surely there comes a time, you know, when you feel like you've got to meet that person, or you start to think, well, why don't they want to meet up? But, you know, I think anyone could get hooked in, really, I suppose. Where am I? Kelly, there's so many people on YouTube that have faked so many YouTube accounts that are voice changed from other people, just created to cause drama. Really weird. I think, you know, sometimes I just think there's got to be something wrong with someone who feels like they have to do that. You know, to me, it just thinks they're a bit sad, aren't they, really? They've got some sort of, I don't know, mental health issue. Also, where did they get the time to do that? I haven't got time to do the YouTube account that I'm doing. Never mind, you know, trying to make up some fake accounts and start winding up drama between other YouTubers or whatever. Where do you find the time for that? I mean, you must have a pretty sad life if that's all you've got to do. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, ACW. It is live now. It's a bit. Well, the thing is, Kelly, they do have hanky panky. They have telephone hanky panky. The one that I'm going to tell you about later, they had regular telephone hanky panky, but it turned out not only it wasn't the person that this woman thought it was a woman, not even a man. It was not only it wasn't the man she thought it was actually a woman. Anyway, that's a hell of a story. But anyway, I don't want to tell you too much about that. because I'm going to talk about it later, and it is on Netflix, so I don't really want to spoil the ending, but I suppose I already have. Okay. So yeah, catfishing. So first of all, what is it and where does the name come from? I can remember as clear as day the first time I heard it, which wasn't that long ago. I'm not really, don't really know about all these sort of things. But when there was a young Scottish lad went missing, Liam, and I think I've mentioned this on another video. The receptionist I had working for me at the time, she knew this lad. He was missing in Scotland, and it was one of those, a bit like Jay Slater. It took over the internet a bit. Everybody was talking about it. I wasn't on YouTube then. Well, I was on YouTube, but I wasn't really doing those sort of cases then. So I didn't do it, but I remember the case because I remember seeing it on other YouTube channels, etc. And then this girl that was working for me, she said, "Oh, I know him. I met him at a wedding that I went to, and met him. Just seemed like a normal young lad. He was a teenager. Anyway, he disappeared, and bless him, he was found later." He had deleted himself in the woods. He'd got on a bus, got a McDonald's, got on a bus, went off to the woods somewhere, and he was found eventually. But that's when I remember hearing this, because this receptionist that had working for me, I said, "Well, what do you think's happened to him?" She said, "Oh, we think he's been catfished." And I was like, "Catfished? What do you mean by catfish?" Because I just didn't know what it meant at the time. So this was, how long ago was it? Was it about 5 years ago? It was before COVID, 5-6 years ago. And that's the first time that I remember registering what catfishing is, and then, of course, I knew about people that had been sort of lured away by false accounts. People have even been murdered from it. I did the case, didn't I, of Ashley Hall. Bless her. So this Ashley Hall, this is on my YouTube channel. Ashley Hall was a young girl. Let's see. Ashley Hall, this girl, oops, and she was catfished by Peter Chapman, which is this horrible man in the glasses, and that on the side was the picture that he had on his social media account, and he was deliberately looking for young girls. She was 17 years old. She started writing to who she thought was the handsome young lad in the bare chest, and actually she was right into that plonker, and he lured her out, and he did murder her. He RAP'd her and murdered her, and then he's caught, he's in prison. Well, of course, it turns out he had lots of other offences, like it does, but he told her when he was coming to pick her up, from the account of the young lad, or who she thought was the young lad she was going to meet, he texted her and said, "My dad, is it okay if my dad picks you up?" And she said, "Yeah, that's fine." So this guy came and picked her up. She got in the car thinking it was his dad. But he didn't exist. Well, he does exist. I expect that young lad. I don't know who the real lad is. I wonder if he knows that his picture was used like this. It would be a real person somewhere along the line. And Ashley, unfortunately, was murdered by this twonk through catfishing. So this is what catfishing is, isn't it? So we're going to have a look. I found this article. There's a lot of articles about catfishing, but I thought this one was especially interesting because it's aimed at teenagers. Now, don't forget, you don't have to be a teenager to be catfished. You can be any age, even if it's romance. They're out there. There's teams of these people out in Nigeria, messaging men and women, trying to hook them in, trying to get money off them. They ask for money to come and visit them, and then they don't exist sometimes when they're pretending that I knew someone who was catfished here in Spain, not far from where I live. And they went to Madrid to meet the person. They thought they were talking to a woman in Nigeria. They did think it was, but this woman, beautiful woman, sent all these pictures and asked for some money to come and visit them in Spain. They sent the money over for the plane ticket and went to Madrid airport to meet this person who never turned up, of course. And that guy, very sadly, later actually did take his own life, because he just split up from his wife. He'd had a traumatic divorce. I don't know what the reasons for it. I think he must have had some mental health issues. I don't know. I met him once. I only met him once at a dinner party, and he was with his wife then, and it all seemed normal, like it does. They had young children. And anyway, something happened. I don't know the full details. The marriage split up, and he started to, do these, what you might think, a bit crazy things. That's what loneliness does to you. People get lonely, and somebody's targeted him, catfished him. Because what they do is they go through all the social media, don't they? And they look for people of a certain age, single, and they just send out hundreds and hundreds of friend requests, and every now and again they get lucky. I mean, the thing is, you don't have to get lucky very often, because it doesn't cost anything to go on Facebook and do all these things. It doesn't cost you any money to go on Facebook and send out a load of friend requests and try and find someone who's receptive. It happens all the time. You can normally spot them a mile off, I think, but that's because I'm aware of it. Some people aren't aware, or they are so lonely, or I don't know what it is, and then they con people out of thousands of pounds, and they're organised groups, organised. This is all. It's almost like a job. That's what they do all day. And they're successful at it because they know what they're doing. Of course, the other thing they do is they'll send emails and say, oh, it's such and such. I'm stuck in Borneo or whatever on holiday, and I've lost all my credit cards, and can you send me some money, until I can get them sorted, etc. 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 And some people fall for that, don't they? So you've got to be vigilant online. I mean, I think really the hi Tracy, I think the moral of this story is just be careful. The trouble is you can be too suspicious. I don't trust anyone. Terrible, isn't it? You end up being a person who can't trust anyone, and you shouldn't be like that either. But anyway, so also for those of you out there, if you're in contact with young people, and listen, it's not only teenagers. I mean, this article we're going to read is aimed at teenagers. But you'll see from this story that this case we're going to talk about, children, young children as young as 8, 9, 10, 11, any child who's on the internet and it's not being monitored, what they're doing, can fall prey to one of these people, because they go on the places where they know they'll find young people. Snapchat, I don't know, there's that many bloody social media platforms these days. I lose track of them. So we probably the best known ones are Twitter, Facebook, but then there's Snapchat and oh God, what's that other? Oh, there's so many. Well, TikTok, of course. So, catfished meaning and 14 signs you're being catfished online. It could happen to the best of us. I think it could happen to anyone if the right thing, if they just catch you, I don't know, with the right story. So if you're suspicious that someone you're talking to online is not in fact who they say they are, you could be a victim of catfishing. While pop culture sometimes tries to persuade us that getting catfish is grounds for rom-com material, the reality is there's nothing romantic about it. Catfish dating online is a very real thing, and it's important to know the catfished meaning and to be able to identify warning signs so you can protect yourself against these online imposters at best and predators at worst. Read on to learn how to tell if someone is a catfish. So what is it? It's the act of creating a false identity in order to lure people into relationships, whether friendships or romantic connections online. But sometimes it is just friendships, not romantic. The catfish refers to the predator who creates a false identity. While people who catfish may not be alone in creating fake personas for the internet, the thing that tends to separate catfishers apart from trolls, scammers, and other online imposters is their emphasis on starting a relationship with someone and carrying it out over time. In other words, no, that one time you texted your crush from a friend's phone doesn't mean you've catfished someone. Oh, I would never do that. Oh, you'd never do that, would you? Oh, yeah. Catfishing is abusive and deceptive. This practice was widely brought to light in Nev Schulman's 2010 documentary Catfish and the subsequent MTV reality show spin-off Catfish, the TV show. Unfortunately, it also shows no signs of slowing down. At the risk of sounding like a boomer, dating apps and social media today offer all the more opportunities for catfishers to make contact. Yeah, it's so easy nowadays. I mean, there'll always have been people who did things like this. You know, there would be lonely hearts ads in the paper, or, you know, there's always deceptive people, or you might meet someone in a pub. You know, in my day, that was the way you met people. You went out and met people. You didn't sit at home and swipe left or right. You know, you had to actually go out and make social contact to meet anybody, which was nice. But you still didn't know who they were, really, when you think about it. You get chatting to someone at a bar, and unless they're a friend of someone you know, how would you know even that the name they're giving you is the right name? Or that the story they're telling you of where they work, or, you know, how if they're rich, or this, that, or the other, where they live. You don't know. You didn't know. There'll always be people who want to. There'll always be bad people who want to be twats, basically, and there always was people like that. You know, I'm thinking of some of the lads that I used to work with when I worked at the Social Security, and they used to tell us about some of the chat up lines that they had. And oh my God, they used to talk a right load of cojones to, not to us because they knew us and we worked with them, but, you know, if they'd be out, like, they say, oh yeah, I told her I was an Olympic rower, one was saying. You know, just like that. I mean, that's a bit more light-hearted. He wasn't doing it to try and, you know, incite someone to murder them or whatever. But it still lies, isn't it? A lot of, you know, people have always been there's always been some Walter Mitty characters. That's the whole point of Walter Mitty. But now there's so much more opportunities to do it, aren't they? So seeing an uptick in what they call confidence fraud during the pandemic, the FBI has even shared official warnings about the potential for meeting a catfish or other romance scammer online, saying they'd received 22% more romance scam complaints between 2019 and 20 alone. Oh, well, COVID just sent everyone loopy, didn't it? And then people, you know, couldn't get out during COVID, so they're much more vulnerable to catfishing because they were even more lonely. Sorry, I'm just looking at that that's just come up. I want some of them because make some earrings. I'm going to order those later. Sorry, that totally distracted me. Why is it called catfishing? So the term traces back to Nev Schulman's 2010 documentary and an anecdote shared in it by a man, Vince Pierce, who's married to a catfish. Pierce says that when shipping live cod between the US and China, seafood suppliers discovered the cod would arrive in healthier, better condition if a live catfish, a natural enemy of cod, was included in the tank. There are people who are catfishing life and they keep you on your toes, Pierce tells Schulman. They keep you guessing. They keep you thinking. They keep you fresh. And thank God for the catfish, because we would be droll, boring and dull if we didn't have someone nipping at our fin. Well, as it says here, that's an interesting way to frame the impact of someone who chronically lies and manipulates. But we digress. So why do people catfish? I think that's important. But the reasons are never good. There's no good reason why you would pretend to be anybody else, is there, to trick someone? There is no good reason. It's always going to be a way of manipulation, deceit. Maybe it'll be a way of trying to find out things, but it's still not good, is it? Some catfish are lonely, have poor self-esteem, and want a relationship with someone they don't believe would be interested in them, either as a friend or something more in real life. Some catfish are out to troll or harass their victims or to get revenge on someone. Importantly, just because shows like Catfish at times portray dynamics between strangers does not mean that a catfish can't be someone you actually know. And this one of the ones I'm going to tell you about, it was someone they knew. It was a family member. Oh my God. And they're the worst ones, because they do know things about you. So when they're pretending to be somebody else, but they know things that will, if they know you, they know things that will appeal to you, will trigger you, will make you trust them because they know you. So often these catfish, as I say, they're not people you don't know. Some guy sat in a room in the attic somewhere on his bloody PlayStation or whatever. They're people who you know that are in your life, know you, speak to you on a regular basis under their real persona. So they're not always strangers. It really is quite scary. Sometimes catfishing is just another form of cyberbullying, or sometimes catfish want to scam money from their victims, or catfishing is the first step in a plan to kidnap or physically abuse them. So if you think there's a chance you're talking to a catfish online, cut ties with them as quickly as possible, even if you believe they're acting mostly out of loneliness. Dishonesty and deception is never a justifiable start to any kind of relationship. And just thinking about that, and I'm thinking of one of my exes he catfished me really afterwards, because he sent me, I mean, I knew it was him straight away because, he's not clever enough, but he sent me I don't know, it was on some dating site that I'd not been on for years, but I had been on it. Oh no, where did it, or was it Facebook? Because, I don't know. Anyway, and he sent me a photo and, hi, how are you? But in Spanish, because he's Spanish. And I was like, oh, sorry, I don't know who you are. It must have been Facebook. And then I said, I don't think I've ever met you before. And he was saying, oh, maybe on, I think it was Badoo or some dating site. Now, I had been on that, but years and years ago. So I thought, oh, well, maybe, you can't remember. God, you get that many matches and everything. You can't remember every single one that sort of you've seen. And as I say, years had gone by. Anyway, then he said something else, and then I knew it was him. I just knew it was him, and I just said, "Oh, you know, why don't you just send me a? Why don't you just say hello?" It was like an ex I hadn't seen for ages. Why don't you just send me a hello from your normal thing? I would have said hello back to you. Why are you doing it like this? But anyway. There you go. So, yeah, he's probably catfishing loads of people. So, is catfishing illegal? This is a tricky question to answer, but it's an important one in case you believe you're being catfished or if you think your photos are being used to catfish someone else, because that's something else that can happen. People can use your photo, download your photo, and use that, like that Peter Chapman did with poor Ashley. He used somebody's photo to make the contact with her, to make her think she was talking to a teenage boy. Who was that? Poor lad. You know, so people can use your picture. So catfishing generally isn't illegal, apparently, although certain elements of it may be. Gosh. So, yeah, just representing yourself differently online isn't against the law, but things like fraud, extortion, and cyberbullying maybe, I think they definitely are. And be careful exchanging intimate or nude photos with someone online. God, I'm so glad I grew up in a different age, because, you know, I think this is something that commonly partners do now, isn't it? You know, exchange photos, compromising photos, you know, it's part of a relationship now. But of course, you know, when I was young and doing all those sort of mad things that you do, we had Polaroids. Polaroid photos, that's what we had. We didn't have, you know, you wouldn't be taking pictures on your phone and stuff. It would be a Polaroid. God, it's terrifying, really, isn't it? Do you think young people, maybe don't they think that these photos might get shared online? But that is an offence now, I think, to share photos online, compromising photos. And yeah, if one or both parties is underage, this can be considered child P. So this is an American article, obviously, because it said laws around catfishing may vary according to states, so your best bet is to consult a lawyer. I would say anyone who thinks they've been catfished, whatever your age, and I think for those of you out there that are older, if you've got any young people in your lives, to maybe have that chat with them about it. I think a lot of young people are quite savvy to this, you know, because they've grown up with this, but there'll always be some, and you know, the younger they are, the more likely they are to be sucked in by one of these horrible people, because they know exactly, these people know exactly how to get round you, you know. But yeah, so if you think you're being catfished, keep a record of everything you receive from the person, especially if they ask for money or send photos. It's best to alert an adult if you trust, if you believe you're in a catfishing scenario. Keep in mind that posting slightly younger photos of yourself on a dating profile or finding your date has done this is not a kind of catfishing that can be punishable by law. So yeah, when you got a dating site and you send a photo of like 20 years ago, that's not catfishing, but it should be illegal though. You know, you always think, let's see. So here's some other ways of telling. Their story doesn't add up. So ask them lots of questions, and they should always give the same answer, shouldn't they? They shouldn't mess around with their answers, you know. So, you know, if you ask something and then you ask it again the next time and you get a different answer, well, it's likely that they're not a real person. Hi, Anna. Hi, BF. God. Yeah, so some of you are talking about cases, even oh, BF, those Polaroids have gone. They were disposed of a long time ago, many years ago. But yeah. So, where am I now? So, yeah, their story doesn't add up. So, that is just a good life lesson, isn't it? If someone's a liar, they will get their story wrong. A bit like a diver we know. You can't get your story straight. If you say a different thing every time you're asked something, then, you're lying, aren't you? Because if you're telling the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. Using somebody else's photos. Now, this is interesting. I don't know about this, but if you're unsure whether a person is who they say they are, conduct a Google reverse image search based on the photos they're using. That's interesting. I didn't even know that you could do that. Yeah. So the confirmation, this person is saying, the confirmation came when I did a reverse Google image search on his pictures and found a different guy's Facebook account. And his only public post was, my account was hacked again. Okay, another warning sign, their life sounds a bit too exciting. Especially, these people, they reinvent themselves, don't they? It's what people do when they come to Spain. They get on the plane at Gatwick, and by the time they come to arrive in wherever they arrive, in Madrid or whatever, they've got a completely different, they're a different person. They've got the Gatwick diploma that we call it. They get on the plane at Gatwick as a street cleaner. And by the time they arrive here, they're a Michelin chef or something, or a master builder. People reinvent themselves here all the time and it's easy to do it here because, people don't know you. You just arrive and expats tend to trust each other a bit because we're all from the same place. Well, from the UK, maybe not from the same area in the UK. But, people tend to take people more at face value, especially when they've not lived here that long. Now, I've lived here a long time. I don't take anybody in face value. I know exactly what to look out for. When someone's telling you lies, you can spot it a mile off. Again, for reasons like, well, one, they're cagey about what they did or where they lived in the UK. If someone said to me, oh, where did you live in the UK? I'm going to say, oh, well, I was born in Manchester, I lived in Reading, and then I came to Spain. It's as easy as that, isn't it? But you get some people, oh, where did you live in the UK? Well, near in the south, or they won't. You just know when someone's edging round, telling you they're not open. I mean, I'm not saying that they should be, tell you their life story, though people quite often do with me. But when they start being really cagey about what they're telling you, Now, I did have, I went out with one guy who, he was very cagey, but I grew to realise why he was cagey, because he was from Northern Ireland and he was a prison officer in Northern Ireland, and you couldn't be open about, who you were, what you did, because it was dangerous. It was dangerous to say you were a prison officer, it was dangerous for you and it was dangerous for your family. And also because he was a Catholic. So that was even more dangerous because, the IRA, he guarded a lot of IRA prisoners, including Martin McGuinness and the other guy from Sinn Féin, Gerry Adams. So, and he was looked on as a sort of a bit of a traitor because he was Catholic, but he was a prison officer. Those kind of things that I understand when people have got reason to be a little bit careful about what they say. And he thought English people were too like blabbermouths, but it probably just meant me. But, because we didn't, we're lucky. We don't know how it is to live in those sort of circumstances where you've got to be guarded about what you say. And that's how it is in Spain as well. Quite a lot you find in Spain when, where The Spanish are not big information sharers. You have to dig for every bit of information you want about everything. That's supposed to be a throwback to the times of Franco, when you know, just being loose-lipped could have resulted in a firing squad. So, you know, I think English people particularly, probably Scottish as well, we don't have that. You know, we've not had to be guarded about what we say, because we've never lived in that sort of environment where you could be shot for having an opinion. Well, it used to be like that. Feels like a dangerous place now. Their only photos are professional. So anyone with professional grade photos like headshots or comp cards should raise your suspicion. Regular people use candid photos taken by their family and friends. So be wary of those who have very few photos of themselves. It's a lot less likely that someone's catfishing you if, in addition to selfies, they also upload their succulent garden pics of their cat napping or the beach they just visited. So be suspicious if they haven't changed their profile photos in a long time or ever, because the reality of those who catfish online, they only have access to so many photos of the person they're claiming to be. So photos will be used sparingly. And speaking of photos, they will never have sent you a casual selfie. So yeah, they won't have sent you a selfie just like, oh, I'm at the supermarket, here's a photo, or I'm at the beach today with the dogs, or because they can't send those casual selfies because they're not that person. And always be suspicious if they're reluctant to meet in real life or even video chat. You've got to have a video chat with. I don't go on dating sites now, but if I did, if I changed my mind and decided to go on one, there's no point in having a great big long conversation, you know, months of conversation with someone over messages. To me, if you felt like you were even starting to like this person, first thing you've got to do is have a video chat, make sure they're the right person. The other thing as well, which, it happened to me once. I met up with a guy, a Spanish guy. He seemed so sweet, we had a lot of messaging beforehand. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I went up and met up with him. This poor guy, he had the worst breath. Now in Spain, when you meet up with someone, you kiss them, twice on each cheek. Oh my God, I nearly thought I was going to be gassed. It was the worst, it wasn't just like, oh, he's had a bit of garlic for his tea or whatever. It was like halitosis, big type, a medical type. It was awful. And we'd arranged to meet at a cafe. You always should meet even when you meet up with somebody. Of course, you should always meet in a public place. Never get in their car. All those rules that you have to follow. But nothing can prepare you for the fact that they might have this terrible bad breath. Bless him, because he was a nice person. It was awful, but I didn't fit. He had family, for God's sake. I couldn't believe nobody had ever told him about it. I didn't think it was my job to tell him about it. So I had to sit for a coffee with him. And luckily, I always go, if I'm going to go on one of these dates, or as I say, like I used to, and not anymore. I've had some really nice dates. I've met some really nice people on the internet, but to go, you always have to have an excuse. The first time you meet someone, you've got to, I've only got an hour, but we could meet for a coffee, because then you've got your get out clause then, if it's just unbearable. There may be times that you're going to think, oh God, I wish I could, I wish I hadn't said that I had to go in an hour, because you're really having a good time with this person. But it's always best the first time. I can only stay an hour because I've got to do whatever. And luckily that's what I'd done with this guy. So I'd already told him before I even met him that I only could be there for an hour. So I I felt awful, but it's not my fault he's got bad breath. And I just thought, why don't his family tell him something? And I was considering telling him, like, over a message. And I'm thinking, well, how can I put that together? How can I say that? Anyway, so I didn't. I told him that I'd got back together with an ex-boyfriend and I couldn't see him anymore. And that was the end of that. But yeah, so video chat, even though a video chat is important, you never know until you actually meet someone for real. There could be all sorts of little problems, even if you've had a video chat with them. So anyway, okay. And sometimes they'll make plans with you, but they just always cancel at the last minute. Yeah, that's interesting. So the other thing is they'll ask you for deeply personal information, but they'll keep things about their own life vague. Well, obviously, yeah, if they ask you for your social security number or your bank details, even if they ask you for your bank details so they can send you money, you shouldn't give it, of course. Yeah. They ask you for money, that's obvious, isn't it? If they ask you for money, you don't even know them and they're asking you for money, that's not right. And the other thing is, 13, if they're sharing strong feelings for you and quickly, how can they turn around and tell you they love you when they've only spoken to you over the internet? It's impossible. It is love bombing. And again, it's so sad because some people, if someone catches you in a vulnerable position, maybe you've had a bereavement or, you've just recently split up from a relationship and, them saying things like that makes you feel good, and people want to feel good. People want to be loved. And that's what they're preying on. And they're also preying on genuine people because it's genuine people that will fall for this shit, unfortunately, because they wouldn't do anything like that. So they can't believe that anybody else would do anything like that. And then, don't be afraid to trust your intuition. Okay, so that's basically just a summary of what catfishing is, how you can avoid it or encourage someone in your life to, young people, especially in your life, how you can encourage them not to get catfished or help them not to get catfished. Heather. Hi, Heather. I know, it's awful, isn't it? What do you say? We had someone at Social Security who had very bad BO, and I think the supervisor in the end had to tell her, bless her, because people wouldn't work with her, and it's a shame anyway. Just making sure I haven't missed anyone. Hi, Matthew. The catfish yeah. So remember to leave your catfish on the like button before you go. What you're saying there, ACW, the American military, that is a common thing. They say they're in the military or they're a doctor, and there's normally a picture of them with their kids, grown-up kids, and a picture of them with some dog or something. They like to put a dog on because they know that dogs always, people like dogs, don't they? So dogs always make people think, oh, they look like a nice person. So, yeah. Hi, Angel. Hi, Annie. I can't remember if I said hi to Annie or Tracy, but I think I did. So, okay. So that is what catfishing is and how to try and avoid it. Yeah, American men, definitely. There's loads of American military catfishers out there, and those are these people from Nigeria. You know, they're clever. They're organised gangs. That's what they do. They sit there in the internet hubs, you know, like doing it all day. And if they get one person sending them a couple of grand. Oh God, I watched a program on the TV, this poor woman. I say poor woman, but you know, in the end, you do start to think, well, come on, you know, you've got to take some responsibility for your own stupidity, really. Because this woman, she'd sent loads of money to this guy. And then it turned out her brother was worried because she was sending all this money to this guy who's supposed to be whoever he was supposed to be. And he contacted like this TV station. Can't remember, it would have been Channel 5, I suppose, or something like that. Actually went out there to catch this guy, spoke to the guy. You know, and it turned out it was this catfish person, and they presented all this evidence to this woman. And she didn't want to believe it, even with all the evidence presented to her. She said it was her brother who was jealous. I mean, it was crackers. So, you know, sometimes you think some people can't be helped. So, you know, you've got to be, this is, you know, you've got to be sensible as well. You know what? Yes, anybody can get sucked in, but once you have the evidence put in front of you, if you still don't believe it, then I'm afraid that's on you. You know, you've got to be a bit sensible as well. So, right. So let's talk about this. So the reason that's brought me to do this video in the first place, so I'm glad I'm doing it, because it's so important in today's world, is this horrible case. This guy, McCartney, what's his first name? Alexander McCartney. Let's have a look at some pictures of him, if we must. No, but we should. So this is a young guy. A young guy. When you look at him, this is what I'm always trying to say, aren't I? Murderers do not look a certain way. Abusers do not look a certain way. Not every offender is an immigrant or a Muslim or a whatever. You know, you cannot think that because someone's maybe a middle class, sort of middle-aged, respectable looking person, man or woman, that they're beyond, you know, they're the people that get trusted, and people that don't get trusted, they're quite often, it's just the way they look. You cannot go by looks. You cannot go by anything. You know, you've always got to don't trust people just because they're not an immigrant or they're not a Muslim, if you see what I mean. This blaming on certain races, religions, etc. There's twonks in every race, in every religion. And this guy, Alexander McCartney, look at him. Remember, it's like Patrick Stevenson. You know, Samantha Murphy's killer. You wouldn't look at him and think he was a killer. You know, a catfisher. He's not, well, I say he's not a killer. He has killed 2 people indirectly, but not where he actually did it. But he did do it. He made it happen. So, catching the catfish killer, phone calls and 64 seized devices snared the child sex abuser. So this guy had 64 devices, and he's from Northern Ireland, and he's been jailed for life. So it was a phone call from a 13-year-old girl in Scotland in 2019. So the other important thing about this is what the internet, unfortunately, gives these twonks, is the ability to reach anywhere. So this guy was based in Northern Ireland. He probably never left his bedroom. You know, he's probably one of them, never left his bedroom, but he didn't need to leave his bedroom to abuse. because he's reached out, this girl in Scotland, in America, all over the world, victims all over the world, without even probably leaving his bedroom, this guy. That is scary as well, isn't it? And that is the difference now with the internet, because although there's always been twonks, there's always been child lovers, there's always been, you know, those things. Now they can reach wider. They can get together on the dark web or whatever. I don't have a clue about the dark web. I've never been on it. I have no intentions of going on it. You know, this is the difference now. So although he's in Northern Ireland and probably never gone out of his bedroom, it was a phone call from a 13-year-old girl in Scotland in 2019 that eventually led to the capture of a social media predator described as one of the world's most prolific sex abusers. So, you know, people can blame it. This guy, you just would walk past him in the street. He's unremarkable, isn't he? You know, this is something that I always try, and, you know, you have to be careful of everybody. Just because they seem okay doesn't mean they are. So Alexander McCartney from Northern Ireland pretended to be a teenage girl to befriend, then abuse and blackmail children all around the world, often sharing images with other Ps. Some of the children were as young as 4. 4? What? Well, why is a 4-year-old on the internet without being monitored? Some had never told anyone what they had been through until police knocked on their door. So McCartney gradually admitted 185 charges, including manslaughter, after a 12-year-old girl he was abusing took her own life. Now, that's bad enough, isn't it? A 12-year-old girl took her own life. But wait till you hear. He made her do it. He encouraged her to do it. This guy, honestly, God, I don't know what's going to happen to him in prison, but he's one of those that you sort of can't help really hoping that something terrible happens to him, because he's horrible. So he's been jailed for a minimum of 20 years, which doesn't seem much to me, to be honest. Sorry, I think he's only in his 20s. So he's only going to be in his 40s, you know, if he gets out. Of course, you know, he'll go on one of these fucking programs like, you know, child abuse program. Oh, yeah, he's a reformed character. Yeah, but he won't be, of course. You know, I think these kind of offences, you can't get any better. You can't get better from doing things like this, because no matter what mental health issues someone might have, or what, you know, I don't know if he said he had a terrible childhood, or, you know, all the usual shite that they come out with to excuse the thing that they're actually just a monster. You know, people are bad. Some people are bad. Some people, I think, are literally possessed sometimes. So whatever crap he came out with in his defence, he isn't going to change. Well, when he's been through all that and looked at all all those children in that way, he's not going to change that. He can't change that way of thinking, looking on children as something to be, you know, as sex objects. That's not going to change. He's always going to be a predator, always. So what happened? Following contact from police in Scotland, an urgent investigation by the police service of Northern Ireland swung into operation in March 2019. Detectives identified the home address of Alexander McCartney, arrested and interviewed him. So it sounds like that once it came to light, it was dealt with quite quickly. And the problem is the victims of these sort of offences, they don't like to go to the police. But, you know, they should, because it seems like that once it was actually reported, it was dealt with quite quickly, which is good. So 64 of his devices were seized at his home in the rural Lissaman Road area outside Newry in 4 separate raids. So these devices held hundreds and thousands of indecent photos and videos of underage girls performing sex acts while being blackmailed. So this area, Newry, this is where we looked at the Kieran, the little boy who's gone missing. That was in the Newry area as well. McCartney made and used many fake accounts on online platforms, mainly Snapchat, to entrap and manipulate them. Detective Chief Superintendent Eamon Corrigan said McCartney had been offending on an industrial scale. He groomed victims into thinking they were talking online to a girl of a similar age before encouraging them to send indecent images or engage in sexual activity via webcam or a mobile phone. He used the same pattern every time, the detective said, and he threatened to share the images online for the pleasure of other peas and use them to further abuse and harass the already terrified and exploited children. In one incident, it took him only 9 minutes to groom, sex abuse and blackmail a girl of only 12 years of age. Now, this is Simran Thomas. She was living in America. She was catfished from America. And she actually shot herself online while she was talking to him. He encouraged her. He counted down. Until this little girl shot herself. Sorry, I've got to give you a warning here because I'm probably going to cry. So she said she didn't want to do what he was telling her to do. And she said rather than do it, she would kill herself. And he said, oh, go on then. I'll count you down. And he counted down. And this girl, she had her father's revolver. And that's what she did. He counted her down and she shot herself. And she was found by her 9-year-old sister. But it gets worse than that even. You think it couldn't get worse than that, wouldn't you? But then a year later, her father killed himself. Because he could not get over the guilt. He could not get over the guilt that she had used his gun. Absolute scum of the earth, this guy. Really hope he gets sorted out in prison, I do. And just, you wouldn't care, would you? If you heard that something had happened to him, you just would not care. So, sorry, I need a tissue now. I thought I was going to be able to get through this without crying, but obviously not. So as time went on, it became clear that McCartney's depravity spanned not just across the UK, but across the world. And the abuse involved other people, pets and objects. Unbelievable. So the Irish authorities worked with colleagues in the United States Department of Homeland Security, the Public Prosecution Service, the National Crime Agency, and victims were located in America, New Zealand, and at least 28 other countries. How has he only got 20 years? Do you know what is wrong with Britain? Wouldn't that be... I don't know what sort of sentence that would give in America, I don't know, but just 20 years for that misery that is caused. Many of the children were only identified through the evidence that detectives located on his devices. According to the police, he built a P enterprise and had stolen childhoods. Let's have a listen to this.
My restaurant, Each offending followed a very similar pattern. So when he had identified a victim and got that first photograph from them, he actually had a pre-prepared threat saved in his phone, which he would cut and paste into the chat to advise the child that they were now being catfished, that he had their image, and that they had to do what he said or else. You had little girls, sort of an average age of 10 to 12 years old, many times, being threatened in the most depraved way to do these things to themselves and provide McCartney with the images. His offending was round the clock, and it was difficult to know when he actually did anything else. From the beginning of the case, the level of abuse was so horrific that we were fearful.
Yeah, so he's literally just doing that all day, glued to his computer. So the volume of the abuse that he was doing was so big. She just said, it's difficult to see how he was doing anything else. He was just literally glued to the computer, abusing these children. Disgusting. And he's got 20 years.
That when these children were identified, would they be okay? Unfortunately, our worst fears were realized when we discovered some way into the case that one of the little girls had taken her own life. The real feature of this case is the complete cowardice of McCartney in targeting children who were so young and very vulnerable. We were absolutely determined to bring him to justice. And, the brave...
There he is. Absolute twonk. Oh God, you know what? I think if it was a mixed prison, I think I'd have to do something to get myself in that prison so I could kill him. Because look at him. Disgusting guy. Just sat in his bedroom, like reaching out and ruining all those lives. Oh God. I'm so angry. I am so angry with this guy. I hope something happens to him. I'm sorry, but I hope, he gets to experience a bit of the fear that he put into those little girls and the misery that he caused that family of a little girl that he counted down to shooting herself.
The bravery of the victims was just an inspiration to us because as police identified them, they were giving us evidence. Some of the children had raised the alarm, which helped police to actually identify him in the first place. But some of the children, until police knocked the door, they had never told anyone what they'd been through.
Let's just watch that one more time. So how many others are there like him out there? Loads.
Each offending followed a very similar pattern. So when he had identified a victim and got that first photograph from them, he actually had a pre-prepared threat saved in his phone, which he would cut and paste into the chat to advise the child that they were now being catfished, that he had their image, and that they had to do what he said or else. You had little girls, sort of an average age of 10 to 12 years old, many times, being threatened in the most depraved way to do these things to themselves and provide McCartney with the images. His offending was round the clock, and it was difficult to know when he actually did anything else. From the beginning of the case, the level of abuse was so horrific that we were fearful that when these children were identified, would they be okay? Unfortunately, our worst fears were realized when we discovered some way into the case that one of the little girls had taken her own life. The real feature of this case is the complete cowardice of McCartney in targeting children who were so young and very vulnerable. We were absolutely determined to bring him to justice. And, the bravery of the victims was just an inspiration to us, because as police identified them, they were giving us evidence. Some of the children had raised the alarm, which helped police to actually identify him in the first place. But some of the children, until police knocked the door, they had never told anyone what they'd been through.
I hope you're all right out there, because that is triggering, and it's incredible, isn't it? It's just incredible that somebody could be that wicked, to be that wicked. Anyway, in the spring of 2019, police called Catherine Kieran's acting head of the Public Prosecution Services Serious Crime Unit. They said something big was unfolding. It involved catfishing. And anyway, that's really how it happened. So, yeah, he offended round the clock. He did nothing else. She couldn't see how he could do anything else. He was just constantly on that computer. And here's that little girl, Cimarron. 12 she was when she died, bless her. Yeah, so he would been very assiduous about saving the images. He would save the map on Snapchat of where they were in some cases, and that enabled police to locate the children. And then his arraignment in 2021 was delayed as they discovered the suicide of a little girl in West Virginia, USA. Anyway. So that little girl was 12-year-old Cimarron Thomas, who in 2018 shot herself while he was abusing her, and he was charged with manslaughter. Miss Kieran said it is believed to be the first time an abuser anywhere in the world has been held accountable for manslaughter, where the victim and perpetrator have never met in person. That's one good thing, if you like. Obviously not a good thing, but if it set a precedent. But he's still only got 20 years. This is what I don't understand. It's all very well and good them saying all these things. 20 years. Such was the magnitude of the case that prosecutors had to be judicious with the charges. We couldn't put 3,000 charges on the indictment. So in the end, there were about 200 charges relating to about 70 victims, which is probably one of the largest indictments that we've seen in Northern Ireland. God, this makes Stefan Stearns, even if Stefan Stearns didn't have this many charges, these many things, and he's got 20 years. For God's sake. So who is Alexander McCartney apart from a massive, great big twonk with a button mushroom? Who is he? So he grew up 5 miles outside of Newry, just off the main road to Armagh City. It's about as rural as it gets. Farms, a church, a few businesses. When he first appeared at Newry Magistrates Court, he was just 21. 21 years old. Good God, and he'd been doing it for years. So that was in 2019 for adults. So he's 26. So if he gets released, because he probably will, because all those do-gooders out there will be like, oh no, he's a different person now. Absolute cojones. He won't even be 50. So he spent more than 5 years on remand at Maghaberry Prison, leaving only for court appearances and further questioning by the police. In those hearings, he has said little other than to confirm his name and date of birth and to gradually enter softly spoken guilty pleas. Well, at least he pled guilty. That's why he's got a shorter sentence, isn't it? And these are some examples of his messages. What you up to? Oh, yeah. So what's he say? Oh, can I see you? Take a live selfie snap. God. And then this poor child has said, what kind do you want? What's she talking about? She talking about food there, yeah. And then she sent a photo and he's, oh, you are cute. Oh my God, kiss, kiss. Oh. Nothing extraordinary about him. Oh no, not much. So McCartney attended Newry High School and he was into gaming. He was introverted, one source told BBC News. Socially awkward. He didn't interact with people much outside his group of friends. He was maybe at the edges of things, but he had friends who obviously knew nothing about this. So then he took a course at the Southern Regional College in Newry, where he was described as quiet and didn't really get involved with the rest of the class. And when he was finally charged in 2019, he was a computer science student, of course he was, at Ulster University. No offence to other computer science students. The whole place was stunned, one resident said. It was whispers at the start, then disbelief. I'm sure people talk about it in their own homes, but it doesn't get discussed publicly because people don't know what to say. Another said he came across as a pleasant, affable, intelligent young man. There is nothing extraordinary about him. But what is extraordinary is the enormity of his offending. Many of his victims had pleaded for the abuse to stop, but prosecutors said he callously continued, at times forcing the victims to involve younger children, some aged just 4.
The way we consume content
If
and interact
anyone
with technology has evolved rapidly.
deserves
Advancements in tech have unlocked new
something
realms
bad
of
to
creative
happen to him,
expression
it's
for me.
this guy.
TCL is becoming a part of consumers' lives. Today,
Oh,
we
you've got to
celebrate
listen to
25
the
years
advert,
of TCL's globalization.
Tomorrow, we hope to inspire even more consumers to be a part of where their dream begins.
McCartney is a dangerous predator. He was relentless and cruel. He posed as a young girl online to groom and manipulate his victims, some as young as 4, to satisfy his own sexual perversions. We have worked tirelessly on this case with international criminal justice partners to safeguard victims and to build a robust case against this man whose offending has shocked communities around the world. Sitting in his bedroom in Newry, he began his offending as a late teenager. His offending was on an industrial scale. He had a number of devices and was operating across different time zones. His depravity knew no bounds. He has caused serious and long-lasting harm on what we estimate to be around 3,500 victims and their families. I want to thank those who have come forward today for being so incredibly brave and assisting our investigation.
So, yeah, 3,000 people affected, 2 dead because of this 21-year-old, or as he was then. So apparently, and I think we can go along with that, his depravity was such it was one of the most distressing and prolific cases of child SA we have ever seen. And some of the victims have still not been identified despite exhaustive efforts. Now, notice in this particular article, they don't mention the fact that her father also deleted himself, but I'm going to find an article that did. Let's see, might be on there. Someone? Yeah. So this is an Irish newspaper, I think. Yeah. So how an online abuser destroyed a US girl's life from his Armagh bedroom. This is just incredible, isn't it? The reach of it. He's sat in his bedroom never moves out of his bedroom in Ireland, and he reaches out to West Virginia and kills 2 people from his actions. So Cimarron pleaded with him not to make him send her an image of her younger sister, but he was unrelenting. God, what's wrong with this guy? So Cimarron Thomas took her own life after being blackmailed by an online abuser. And in her last online conversation with that, I have to warn you here, it's all horrible. So if you can't, it can affect people. So just want to give you a warning. In her last online conversation with Alexander, he threatened to share inappropriate images that she had tricked him into sending her if she did not send pictures of her younger sister. He said he would send the images to her father, other family members and friends. And just over 3 minutes after the online chat ended, Cimarron took her own life. And then 18 months later, in January 2020, her heartbroken father, Ben Thomas, a former US Army veteran, also took his own life. Family members said he lost the will to live and was overcome with guilt because his daughter had been able to access his gun. So, a father and a daughter in a small town in West Virginia in the US driven to suicide because of what prosecution lawyers described as the depravity of the actions of a serial child abuser using a computer in the bedroom of his home. What can you do about this? Because these people, he's not, he's hidden away in his bedroom. So how do you stop this? How many others are there of these people? I don't know. There's got to be something. In all this age of technology, you've got technology for everything except catching bloody predators. Until they come to, all right, he came to the fore and then he was caught. But until someone actually reports at him. Anyway, I think that's enough about him. So what I'm going to tell you about now, similar case. Hi, Watchdog. Yeah, as young as 4. Terrible. Hi, Jacqueline. Now, so what we're talking about in general is catfishing. That's an extreme case, isn't it? 3,000 victims, young girls as young as 4, 2 deaths because of this man's actions, and he's going to prison for 20 years. Don't get me going on that. So angry about his sentence. Anyway, just to finish, what I want to tell you about is another case of catfishing, not to do with children, but still very distressing for the person who is involved. I don't know if any of you watch Netflix. I imagine you do. I want to recommend to you this series on Netflix, Sweet Bobby, My Catfish Nightmare. If you can't believe how somebody could get involved in a catfishing scenario, how easy this is to, I think it's easy to deceive people when you get them at a vulnerable moment. That's what I think. Now, this particular catfish, 9 years this went on for. 9 years. Now, luckily, it didn't result in anybody's death, but resulted in a lot of misery for both this man and this woman, mainly for the woman. And when you watching that series, I won't tell you the whole thing that happened in it, but I just recommend that you watch it, because again, it was a virtual relationship that went on for 9 years. And it only came to light when finally this woman decided she was going to take matters into her own hand and actually go round to the guy's house. Because it just went on. There was loads of time. Oh, the lies she was told. That he was in a witness protection program. He was ill and in hospital. Honest to God, you can see the lies that were told, they were plausible. And her catfisher, they had access to a lot of information about both of the people. So they made it look so genuine, that they made it last for 9 years. And it only all came out into the open because the woman in the end did take matters into her own hand and decide to sort of, go and sort of to see this person. And it turns out that the person that she thought she'd been talking to for 9 years was not that person. So I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in, if you think it could happen to you or someone this woman, you'll see that's the real woman. That's the real woman that it happened to. Kirat. She's an intelligent woman. You just can't believe. But when you watch the series and you see how it doesn't happen overnight, it wasn't like she went 1 minute from meeting someone online and then a week later she's in love with them. This happened over years. And she was caught out at a very vulnerable time when she split up from her boyfriend. Finally, it all sort of spiraled even more downwards. But before it started to spiral really downwards, it had already been, they'd had an online friendship. Her and her catfisher had an online friendship already for years, 5-6 years. So she thought she did know him, but she didn't. So I just would recommend that to you. I don't want to tell you about what happened at the end because it'll spoil it for you if you do watch it on Netflix. Yeah, I don't know, Vicky, but people sometimes, I think they believe what they want to believe. It's like confirmation bias, isn't it? And I think we can all get caught up in things if it's something we want to believe, or it confirms what we already believe, or maybe we're vulnerable. I mean, you can see how you could pull the wool over a little girl's eyes, for God's sake. It's not exactly an achievement, is it, to, fool a 10-year-old or whatever. At the end of the day, you might think he's that idiot. McCartney might think he's a genius, but he's not a genius. He's picking on young kids who don't know any better. He wouldn't have got that far with older women. But there are older women that get caught, like that woman there, Kira. There are a lot of older women that do get caught out by these romance scams, etc., or money scams, or people do get caught out. It's incredible, isn't it? Really, it is incredible. Anyway, that's the story. Now he's in prison. At least that twonk, he's in prison. Thank God. But 20 years, it's not enough. I hope they never let him out. I mean, in 20 years, I don't know if I'll be here to see if he comes out or not. But, none of us do, I suppose. Maybe something will have happened to him in prison before that. Which, do you know what? It's so wrong to wish harm on people. I know that. I shouldn't do that. But it's so difficult not to wish harm on a man who's done what that man has done. It's difficult, isn't it? Now I'm looking for my lighter because I was going to light a candle. I don't know. I don't know what happened. My lighter, it's got mind of its own. It wanders all over the place. So I'm going to light a candle for Cimarron and her dad, Ben. Let me put a picture up of him. So it's not only for Simmer and Ben, they were the two that died because of this twonk, but also for all the 3,000 victims who have got to live with, you know, what has happened to them. Good God. Anyway, I hope, oh, thank you. Yeah, let's light some candles. I hope that they're together now. Let's have a picture. I can't put pictures up now like I could on this stupid StreamYard thing. But let's have... What? Where's that music coming from? I don't know where that music's coming from. Oh, I turned the video on. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Right, no, I want a picture of Cimarron and Ben, her dad. Let's see. Right, let's see. Okay, so here they are. This must be her other sister that he was trying to get her to send photos of. 4 years old, he was trying to get photos. He was trying to get Cimarron to send him photos. How was Cimarron on the... I mean, it's so difficult these days to monitor your child's internet use, etc. You know, there's a whole family there. A whole family destroyed. Let's have a look at this. Oh, I forgot to share it. Sorry, hang on. So, yeah, he may as well have pulled the trigger. Families rage after father and daughter driven to suicide. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, I was trying to show you the photos. Yeah, so here's the family. It looks like that. So this is the other daughter. I presume this is a brother. Here's Ben. So Ben and Cimarron are no longer walking on this planet because of that twonk. So anyway, so the candle is for them and also the other 3,000 victims of that horrible, horrible, horrible man. Just unbelievable, you know, unbelievable. Yeah, there was music coming out. It was on my computer. Anyway, never mind. Okay, so I'm going now. But I'll be back later. I'll definitely be back later. Sometimes when if nothing drastic happens, I was going to do like this live. I was going to do last night, and then, you know, things happen, life happens, and, you know, this, that, and the other. So I couldn't do the live last night, but I'm better in the morning. Actually, I've got more sort of. God, I thought of doing that last night at night, and I'm already sort of tired and emotional. It's been bad enough going through this because these are painful stories to relate. But, you know, it's important that people know about this man. It's important. Okay. Thank you all. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Don't forget to like, please. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And why not become a member? We've got our members live tomorrow night. And don't forget to send me in your Halloween outfits, because we're having a Halloween live on Thursday night. More of a fun live than talking about peas like this guy. Okay, thank you. Have a great day. I'll see you soon in the next video. And until then, as always, may your God go with you. Thank you so much.